Good evening, everybody. This is, in theory, bar the shouting, the final part of this epic-ish. I don't know how. No, probably not as epic as the Dothraki experience, but yeah, this is the final part when I'm going to paint the base. Now, obviously, if you've been following through, this was a base that I sculpted. It's on I think it was a 60mm round GW base, Games Workshop base. I used Milliput, and I'm going to attempt to paint some lava flowing between his legs, and then we've got the rest of the structure with the meatballs, which will not be meatballs in the end, but we will find out what they are going to be. So first thing, and then if I've got time, is paint the toenails. But yeah, the first thing is what colours I've got. What I'm going to do is it's on rock, and the rock will be dark blackish grey, but I'm going to do it with some blue tones in it. The idea being that will be cold in kind of colour with blue, but when we get the yellows and reds will be lava, which will be warm and hot. So and we've got no real blue in here either, so it should look quite appealing as a result. Now, exactly how I'm going to do this, I don't know. I'm going to start off with some dry brushing, gently, just to get a feel of how the colour is going to go. I kind of textured it with a stone, a rough stone, and sort of sculpting tools, just to get some of these shapes in here, and they should respond quite nicely to a bit of dry brushing. So I've got what colours have we got? We've got grey ooze on the right. We have got black next to it, just pure black, and we have got Displacer Beast, obviously, to the left, and the brighter blue is the Behir Bere. So I'm going to start off dark and work up light, and I'll probably end up doing some brush work over top. So I'm just going to take some of the...
You're going to use the texture palette?
I'm not at this point. I'm going to go with what I know at this point. I'm probably going to have to add more of this here. Displacer Beast. No, it's, for me, I'm not. It's kind of too unwieldy, as it were. So I haven't primed it or anything. So I'm just using. I've just got the old. I'm testing it on that rough surface of that tissue, and probably won't see a lot to start off with because of the light from the... You can see a bit of that on there.
There are plenty of videos on YouTube if people wanted to find out about how to use texture.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to give a light. Yeah, you can see that kind of colour coming through already. I'm doing it quite... It's not as dry as it might be. It's not sort of super dry. And also, I guess I'm doing this directly onto primer, so I haven't gone through and given it a base coat or anything. I might even end up doing a wash of black if I feel I go too far, sort of, with this. It gets too bright. I guess the classic thing, I've even some green spillage from when painting his flesh. I'm being careful going up to his feet because I don't want to dry brush this colour over top of the green carefully painted. So this is kind of rough and ready. Just
is that like a base coat dry brush then?
Yeah, it's just getting the feel of changing the colour. Really, it's I generally don't know how. It needs to lighten up a bit more, but the light will come through in zones. So yeah, this is kind of just doing a base. Yeah, it's kind of a base coat while leaving the primer still in the deeper, darkest places. So I'm not trying to do a base coat in terms of coverage. I'm just doing getting this to kind of do the first stage of changing the overall tone a bit, and you can see it's got that kind of slight bluishness to it because this here colour has got some blue in it.
Certainly matted it down. See that?
Yeah. So yeah, just covering that generally. What I often do anyway as well is that I'm not getting in close to his feet, but even on a historical figure I'll often end up going and doing dark washes around a foot to kind of mimic a shadow. I just kind of like that fact that you can almost have the direct light coming down and creating shadow around his feet kind of thing.
That's what they say, isn't it? A good idea to have the top part of your miniature or the point that you're looking at to be slightly lighter.
Yeah.
So
that will do for now. Now I've got to think about this carefully because I don't want to go too far at this point with this dry brushing and highlighting and making it all nice and cool and whatever and what I like, because I've got some really narrow, awkward to reach points where I'm going to do the lava, and the lava is going to be starting off. In order to get the brightness and vibrancy, the colours I'm going to do are going to go over white. So I'm going to be painting white in those shallowest or the bits where the lava is going to flow. So I'll probably end up having to go back and add some black because that's undoubtedly going to catch on bits I don't want it to catch because it's awkward to get the brush in there. So
you're going to do that after?
I'm going to kind of work between the two, as it were. I'm just going to add a little bit of the blue now into there. So that's a little bit bluer. But yeah, I would probably say because we'll be working on the wet palette, these colours will still be around while I'm doing I'll turn this upside down and do the reds. So it can jump from one to another. If I get some paint in the wrong place, I can go back and correct it, which is one of the nice things about the wet palette, really. So with this slightly bluer, I'm just going to pick some areas around the front. When I'm doing these Games Workshop-y kind of bases, because they've got this lovely edge, I often, whatever colour I'm doing them, often do the outsides a little bit brighter and then go around with a black paintbrush or black on the brush and just, because you can see there's paint going over the edge. Quite happy about that because that gets sharpened up when I go back and, like I say, paint the rim of this black eventually.
Would you use just a regular black, or would you use like black 3.0 or 4.0 or something?
I would just use, I think the black we've got here is the Vallejo black in these little tubs, and it has a slight satin sheen on its own, which is really nice when you're doing these edges, to give it sort of like almost a semi-gloss or a sub-semi-gloss look. Can be quite appealing because it looks kind of posher. So yeah, this is literally just going around. Because the idea is that you want it to be dark, but you also want this to pop out a little bit. You do want to see that it's a different colour. And looking all right so far. Nothing super exciting. Obviously, I will have to explain the meatballs soon, but I'm not quite there yet.
You will have to explain the meatballs. There's no spaghetti either.
No. I was. It's related to. Yeah, this is the way my brain thinks. It's actually related. It's going to be related to real world geology, and I am a geologist. I did a degree in geology years ago, and there's a particular type of rock or stone that they are going to end up being, hopefully, which will have almost a slightly meatball look about them. But anyway, let's move forward. I'm going to make this a little bit brighter again. I'm going to add a tad of the. You can see how bright it's getting much lighter. But I'm going to have less on my brush in theory, and just probably now be much more cautious about how I apply this. So I'm just going to. But I'm doing less scrubbing now, and I'm kind of just. But what I'm going to try and do here is I'm only going downwards. So I'm not, when the brush is going up, I'm not touching it. So it's basically catching the light going down effectively. And you can see.
Yeah, you can see that.
How that's working at this point. It's quite nice, I like that. So the same light that's illuminating him. And this is the kind of thing you can take it as far as you like, really. It's so far so good. And yeah, with saying again about the, I created a rod from my own back by having this deep crevice in here to get the paintbrush in, but in reality he's casting a shadow himself underneath, so if I can't if it's not super bright in there, that's not an issue because he's there. He's in the way. So
but if it was lava, it would be producing its own light, wouldn't it?
Well, this is another thing, is do I do then some object source lighting from the lava? Maybe I will. Maybe I'll chicken out of it. Yes, there'll be light going up, and I could do maybe some. I'm not going to be honest with you. That'll overcomplicate the whole session this evening. Some light glowing on the inside of his legs, or even on the axe when it's applied. When I join that back on.
Yeah, that's those highlights really popping out now, aren't they?
Yeah. And like, if you ever think it's gone too far, or I overdid that little bit, this is the kind of thing where you can just get your black paint and thin it down and paint over top, and then when that's dry, or use it as a wash, come back and redo this. Perfect.
Is that the same brush that you started with as well?
Yeah,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I haven't cleaned it or anything at the moment. It's still the same.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see if I can get a little bit in.
And the medium one or the biggest one?
I think it's the smallest.
Oh, okay.
Just have a look at that one. There you go. The baby one.
Mm-hmm.
And what should we do now? Right, before I do anything else, regular paintbrush. I'm just going to see how this looks. See if I can. I'm just going to thin a little bit some of that paint. I've already got that. Not too much paint on my brush. I'm just going to see if I can. Paint some of these more vertical, horizontal even.
Oh, so it's a slightly different type of rock, are they?
No, just where you see that's closer to his foot, so it would. I can't get the dry brush in there for starters because I'd end up painting his feet. But just it's because you could argue the light is crashing down on there. It's just going to be easier for me to control than the dry brush, and I can maybe do some sharper bits and pieces, just which are kind of in keeping with the way I painted the figure himself. Yeah, there's kind of keeping the dry brush, or a dry brush can look just like dry brushing, and I haven't really done all that much dry brushing on him. So by doing this, you kind of keep that layer in there. Let's see if I can get some of this on just inside his foot. Ooh, if that's too bright, I can always turn that down, but it's relatively thin. Have I lost a hair? That was a whippet hair. I don't know.
Them whippets. I get mentioned every single episode.
Yeah. Oh yes. So yeah, I'm just going to selectively pick out some bits and pieces with the brush, so you can see in this area coming down here the dry brush bits, but then there's also bits that I put on with the brush that kind of looks quite nice. And although that's blue, that's this colour, which isn't particularly blue, but it looks a lot bluer next to the green on the model itself. So
right. Doesn't pick up on the screen, unfortunately.
okay.
Not on mine, anyway.
Well, it's blue. I mean, it's not blue, super blue, but it's definitely got a bluer tinge. Something. So I'm kind of using this bit here just to frame the feet a little bit more. If you think as well, I'm going to go back in and do those toenails, which will have that kind of slightly browny, yellowy colour of the horns. So there'll be a yellowish brown tone in there as well, which will be quite interesting to see. I managed to get that done as well. Back here, like this. Yeah, one I don't know. I haven't got anything here to show, but I quite enjoyed when I was doing what I call my Warhammer stuff, but it's called Warhammer 40k, and I ended up doing red bases. They've kind of got a Mars kind of desert planet look to them, and they all seem to have that same consistent feel. And I kind of, you can see by picking out areas with the brush, as opposed to just relying on the effect of a dry brush, you get some kind of, you can frame things a bit differently. You've got a different level of control, which don't feel that you have a technique, you use the technique, and that's it. You can really muck these things around, and you can create some quite visually interesting bits and pieces. And this is, I'm going to just do like some linear things in there, which I as a geologist, I kind of like bedding. So
you're going to name all the different types of rock that he has there.
well, currently this is a gabbro, which is a igneous rock. So I'm talking to that. Actually, that could be quite fun. I hadn't thought of that, but when you see, I might just try that. This is absolutely, completely on-the-fly experimentation now.
You didn't plan to turn this into a geology lesson, did you?
There will be a bit of geology later on when I come to do the it's a bit of geology coupled with a little bit of prog rock discussion. Yes, this is where we've got to right now. This is where we've descended. I just thought I'd try and put some little dots on there for texture, thinking that they could be little crystals within the rock type. Anyway, you get the feel. That's so combining dry brushing and sort of like some, I've got some little linear bits in there again. I'm just going to see if I can get the brush in there to pick up some of those zones, just to make them a bit more than just. I'll probably have to touch those up again when I try and do the lava, which I'll have to do in a minute.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. As I haven't practiced it, I've looked at some pictures, have a vague idea of what I need to do. Some videos where people make it look really easy, and then there'll be us doing this. So could be intriguing. Do a little bit more. Just picking out some of these vertical surfaces and shapes. Because when you see rocks and things, you can get these sort of, could almost be like quartz veins and things going through, from minerals that have kind of dried or formed. Yeah, we've all seen them when you're out and about on various parts of the country. You can use that kind of thing as thoughts or inspiration. So I'll leave that there, because these are things that can come back. So look away from it a little bit. You can see how doing those linear stripes in there have made that look. With dry brushing didn't capture it, but that almost gives a contours and things, so that a bit, a little bit different. Right, what are we going to do now? Right, I'm going to do the preliminary work on the where's it gone? On the lava. So this could go legendarily wrong. White. Just going to use pure white, and initially I'm going to move that out. Quite gloopy. Quite thick there. So yeah, I'm going to thin this down quite a lot and kind of use it as a pin wash. I'm trying to get it to go into the lava bits, mostly with letting it run in there via a wash, which is what people. Sorry.
Is this the time where you would use white then? Using
yeah.
white
Well,
is frowned upon, isn't it?
yeah, because I'm using it as a undercoat effectively here,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to anything else in that context. It's being used as a base coat for subsequent things. So yeah, white is perfectly okay here. I'm not gonna. So, folks, I've never ever done this before. So it's adventure time. Mind you, I've never painted a Nycaloth before, so
It's always good to do things that you're not used to
absolutely
improve your skills, or at least hone the ones that you have. Or find the ones that you're not good at.
Yeah.
What research have you done then for lava?
Well,
Icelandic lava flows.
I basically Googled lava bases and had a look at some pictures, and I have a vague recollection of a video where somebody kept dropping white into the grooves of probably a Necron or a plasma gun or something. So it's that kind of when they're trying to make it glow. So the first thing they often do is do something in white, and then will come in with colours over top. And that's in essence what I want to try and do here. But the thing is that this is what's the word I'm looking for? The area I've got to put the paint in is a little bit rougher than a plasma gun, because that's a nice bit of plastic moulding, and this is rough old milliput. So I'm being careful because I'd rather not, which I've just screwed up there, I'd rather not spend my time tidying up the edges where I've overpainted. I'd rather just get it right. So that's nearly the heart of the logo of the Heroes.
That's how it was forged, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Under the legs of a demon. And Simon's saying, Rob, you're going to come play D&D with us soon.
Yeah. I think I discovered my son plays D&D. Didn't know that.
It's very popular.
Yes, yeah. It's kind of crazy that it's having its resurgence, or never went away. I guess is probably a better way of describing it. It's just had longevity.
Hmm.
The magazine I subscribe to called Imagine FX, which is uh, fantasy and sci-fi art, and they did a D&D special issue recently. So uh, that was yeah, kind of cool that it's still happening. It still inspires artists and the like.
Yeah.
Come back in with a different size brush. Screwed that bit up. I'm going to go back and do it. Oh, bollocks! Just put the paint brush in and join it up.
Well, that's a good thing about painting. So you go over it again.
Yeah, I did say so at the beginning. So
Mhm. Make them thing.
it's easier. Yeah, easier just to use a blood paintbrush and see it going in. I'm going to do some coming. Right. It's kind of going in the right direction.
Yeah.
What I just want to point out is the white on the top there. How cool is that? That's unintentional, but maybe I should be a barista as well and try and do just all a bonus. Right. So the intensity of how this will end up looking will depend on how good this white coat is now. So I'm going to do, yeah, because it will be more vibrant if it's a good white base coat. So I'm going to go back and these key areas again for the second pass. The
Mhm.
paintbrush, the paint is thinnish. I didn't really super thin it down, but it was, yeah, it had reasonable coverage first time, but you can still see a bit grey through it when you see it next to coat number 2. So I'm just gonna put a second pass on. Actually, yeah, I don't mind it. I think I don't need to keep it properly uh, super perfect because there will be some. I do want a little bit of glow, as it were, on the rock around it. It is a bright. Uh, it's going to have a bright effect. It's going to have some source lighting effect on the rock around it, so it doesn't matter
Hmm.
if it bleeds slightly onto uh, some of these bits. I will tidy it up.
Are you thinking about putting any other colours into the rock there, or I guess it's going to be mostly black? I guess there's only no vegetation at all, is there?
No, well, this is where these here uh, meatballs will come into their own eventually. Uh, they will have some colour, uh, and hopefully it will be quite interesting. Nobody will know what I've attempted to do other than anyone who's seen the video or is here tonight, but because I will explain what I think they are when I get around to doing them. So yeah, there we go. So we got what will be the lava flow. Does it look flowy? Flowy. Looks flowy enough, I think.
Yeah, certainly got that shape.
Yeah, and that was what I was trying to do when sculpting it. And it will have, yeah, when it's white like this, it doesn't really look like much. It doesn't look. Oh, good question. How do you plan for a point source of light? Well, certainly with something like this, with this is just going to have a glow around it as opposed to a point source. A certain person sent me some photographs of something they were painting with a point source or 2 point sources, and it ended up being quite useful to take if you take a photograph, or you could sketch it and say, well, what are my sources of light? So for us here, we're working with a light coming down. So basically everything is going down. Now, we can get away with this being glowing, but it could also illuminate everything. It could glow enough to affect some of these lower edges of his legs. So you could almost draw lines from where your light source is, and think about where that is hitting, what things it would hit. So for this, we could say we've got light coming away from these in little arrows because it's not super bright. But then we've got lots of down arrows coming from our light source above. If you decided your light source was coming from here, and it was a lamp or a bright lamp, you could do very arrows on your sketch. Can't quite see the rest. You could take a it's a tricky question regarding. Oh, hang on. Yeah. Yeah, you'd base. If you've got multiple points, you could have more than one light source. I think the photograph that was sent to me, or the model, had a fire and also moonlight. So you had a yellow light coming from a fire, or the embers of a fire, which would be more of a single point glowing in all directions, and you just have to work out where that would be going. And you had a moonlight coming down. A moon is very single direction and off to the side kind of thing. So yeah, and you can add multiple complex light sources and reflections of things on things, which makes it even more complex. But that's probably really poorly explained.
Yeah, I think Simon just wants to know, like, instead of a point light, what kind of how do you do a long light source? Yeah, like a neon light. Imagine a long neon light giving off light right across the surface of it. I guess what you're saying is you instead of doing point from bending the taking the point and then drawing out from that, you're saying you just draw straight out from all the way along the light source, so that everything would be lit, rather than the I don't know how to explain it, what the words are.
Yeah, I have to admit I'm not 100% sure.
It's like a linear light, right? So the light's going all the way up.
All the way, yeah, from the side, or
yeah, from both ends, right the way across it.
I'm not entirely sure. I need to get my head around that. Kind of visualize better.
What call it, a fill light or something?
Yeah, I'll have to think about that. I'm just tidying up some of the edges with just pure black. Quickly here, just.
I mean, if it was me doing it, I'd use an airbrush and just spray from the point that the light was from to give me the idea where all the light is going to be. But you can't do that with this because the light would come all the way from the very back of the base all the way to the front of the base, straight up, wouldn't it?
It's from the what is the source of light?
The lava.
Oh, the lava. How would I? Yeah, you'd have to kind of visualize where you think that's glowing. It's not a strong source of light, so for me here, this would have. I might do a little bit later, just catching on some of these under edges, and kind of look, and if I was doing it, kind of think how it would put some paint on and see if it makes sense. I think.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think because you said it was going to be a reasonably dull light source, it's not going to reach up too high.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter then, does it?
Well, it's one of those things I could make it. You could make it as bright as you like. Really, it depends how. Yeah, you can make it simple. If it was a wider bit of lava coming down here, if it was a bigger bit of lava, I might make more of a light. You could make more of a light source of it.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is just actually need to check the thing quickly. How are we going for time, Malcolm?
A couple of minutes, or you can knock it here if you want. And we'll come back in a bit.
Let me just think about it. I just need to take a picture quickly.
You also need to get that to dry, don't you, before you put anything else on top?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much dry now, to be honest. But put me up in there. Tidying up some of this. Bearing in mind that as soon as I try and put more paint on it for the actual lava, that will get caught everywhere. So yeah, let's have a break here.
Okay.
And then hopefully get the lava, and then I'll do the meatballs.
Okay. We'll be back in a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
2.
Dun, dun, dun. Hello again. Right, here we go. Right, this is where hopefully really exciting things will happen, and it will all look interesting. Right, he said, sounding really boring.
It'll be good.
It all died a death now with that introduction. Yeah, the idea now is that we're going to turn this white into something a little bit lava-y and glowy, and that will involve hot colours, which will contrast nicely with the cold rock colours around it. So we've got the yellow, which is sun yellow, and the orange fire. Orange fire! There you go. Perfect. And bloody red. Now, there is another yellow available to me, and I still haven't been able to get the lid off, so we're not using that one. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do, and this is where it's going to be tricky, I think, when I think about the logic, I'm going to thin my yellow. It's going to be, you could potentially argue for some white right at the very center, but this is dominantly going to be yellow with toward the edges orange, and then red at the very edge. So where it's super, super hot, it's going to be yellow, and it's going to get less hot. Where it's cooler, it's going to be redder. If this all goes to plan, it's going to be hotter in the center. If you just think about if you know the Mordor scene from destroying the ring in Lord of the Rings, and when Gollum falls into that, that is that kind of brightness we get. So I've thinned this down, and I'm just going to give it a very careful glaze into that zone.
Spoiler alert, by the way. If anyone hasn't seen it.
Yeah, yeah. If you haven't seen it, that particular movie came out 21 years ago, or Return of the King came out 21 years ago this week. I learned earlier, and which means Two Towers came out 22 years ago, and Fellowship came out 23 years ago.
Wow. Time flies. Time flies. Are you going to put any black into the flow? You know, because they have like black flecks on the top. Sometimes.
No, I don't think so for this, but I know what you mean, because as soon as it cools, it will go black. But I'm gonna, and you can see why by doing it white, this yellow is quite vibrant. If I did the yellow direct, it actually works to our favor in some respects, because if I go over the edge of the, because it's quite thin, the yellow doesn't pick up too much on the black or the bluey black cooled rock type. You won't notice it quite so much. And in terms of our glow, would actually behave like a glow effect on. I'm doing it over there. You can see, in theory, I guess, how thin that is, and it's gone onto the black around this little puddle, and it works to our advantage as a bit of glow. If you understand my gist. So getting that nice defined white base is almost arguably the critical point. Now I'm using a size 1 brush. It's a Winsor & Newton brush. Because we are dealing with small areas or thin areas, and I want to have more control compared to the brush I was using, which was a huge number 2. Let's get that difficult to see. There it is, looking all right.
White.
All right. Right. Now, rather than quickly go and try and do another coat on that, I'm going to just take some orange, and I'm going to kind of just mix those two together slightly, orange and the yellow. So we've got, and it's a little bit more yellowy than just the pure orange at this point. Now, this is where it's going to be interesting to see, because this is where we are. I've got to be a little bit more precise, because we're going to go and try and do just the edges. Well, not just the edges, but more of the edge. But I kind of want to do it enough that I can still get to red. So, I want to get almost pure red right at the boundary between the black. Could probably thin that down a little bit more. It's pretty thin. You can see that's pretty thin. It's still quite vibrant. Very thin. And again, that overspill kind of on the back works to our advantage.
Yeah, it's certainly warm.
Yeah. Probably been a bit more here.
So you could just keep on adding layers and layers until you get to a point where you're happy, or you are going to switch to the red, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just making sure I've covered the main areas that I wanted to. Arguably, I think, to be honest with you, I'm just going to do another. That's got a little bit too much white in it. And I am going to do another yellow layer over that just to make the yellow more vibrant. I notice there's a couple of areas there, for example, where it's a little bit too white coming through still. But yeah, you can affect. I think you could go backwards and forwards, and I mean, I can now maybe do a little bit more orange, and you can see why if you had a wider, bigger area of lava, then you could go further with this bright, how much transition you get between those vibrant, bright areas. Actually thinking about it, you can just do. organic in origin, and when that gets heated up, it becomes marble through metamorphosis. Now, there's a type of limestone called a dolomitic limestone, contains a mineral dolomite that has magnesium in it, and when that gets heated up, you can get some interesting things happen within. You get chemical things happen, and in the area I was mapping, there was igneous intrusions from things called dikes, and there were sills and things intruded into this dolomitic limestone, and where you get the contact between the very hot stuff like this, before it cools, it affects the rock around it, which was the dolomitic limestone, and it created a thing called a skarn, which were all these different minerals and all these different crystals that came out just on the edge. And one of the crystals that was a garnet, which has got a nice red colour to it, but before it's polished, it's a little bit rough and ready around the edges. The thing is that a guy wrote a paper who discovered these garnets in this area in 1905. By the time I got there in the 1980s, there were none left because everyone had taken them because people had gone to have a look. So you just had to trust that there were garnets there. And I thought that these things looked like garnet crystals, or a little bit, not perfect. Dodecahedron-y, I think they were dodecahedron shaped in its purest crystalline form, which we often, when we think of garnets, we think of them polished crystals.
Okay.
But these are going to be just hints of crystals underneath our in our hellish landscape. So they're kind of like related to metamorphic rocks. And the other thing, random fact about that particular experience when I was field mapping, was that I was overlooking a loch, and in that loch was a salmon farm, and that salmon farm was owned by Jethro Tull lead singer Ian Anderson. So that's where the prog rock link comes in. Anyway, and I used to think I could see him doing his salmon farming, but it was highly unlikely to be him, even though there is a documentary on Channel 4 on YouTube of Ian Anderson in his salmon farm, and you could see the area I was mapping. Anyway, by the by, so I'm going to just pick out some little bits in these zones only with some reds and purples, but because we're now dealing with putting the red, and I'm going to do the red without adding orange or anything to it, because I want to keep it red and maybe a bit of the purple, whatever that was called, hexed lichen. So that'll add another bit of colour and interest. Now, the nice thing about this red, one thing I hadn't shown anyone, here you go. So when I was doing the metals last time, I decided that it would look quite interesting if there was a crystal in the back of that handle.
Yes,
yeah.
You did.
And all I did was just paint some little bits of red in there, and it was over top of metallics, I think. But it you can't quite see it, but it's got areas which are brighter because there's extra layer on top of red, and it looked quite vibrant and interesting. Now, because we're going to use this red, all I'm hoping to do, I don't know how this is exactly work out, a bit of purple. We'll start off with this kind of slightly purple tone. I'm just going to go, and if you look online and look up garnet crystals, you will see that they, in their rawest state, before they're cut and polished, they have quite a dirty browny look to them, and look a bit rough.
Yeah, I just googled them, and it's a kind of not a rusty red, it's more like a crimson red.
Yeah, so the idea here is that I'm going to try and utilize the fact that they are currently we're putting this over top of the black undercoat as opposed to the red colours on the white, which makes them more vibrant. I still hope, these are only going to be picked out in sort of zones of brightness, which will end up being more red than this purple colour to start off with. That was just and they will just look intriguing as opposed to anything else. So you won't know exactly what they are, but in my little brain, they are kind of crystals. And you could, I kind of, even when I was thinking about it, I thought maybe these are the crystals that get carved. It's this kind of thing that got carved and put into his axe.
Yeah.
And that's what gives him a +2 attack in D&D world. It's that kind of.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, create a backstory. Just make it up.
Yeah, that's the thing that lifts figures and things like that, isn't it? A backstory that's plausible.
Yeah, people need not ever know, but it gives you a reason and a logic behind what you're doing, and it's going to make these little bits, which have always been prominent. I mean, the fact they got christened the meatballs early on.
Feel terrible.
it gives them they have a presence. Accidentally ended up on the base in the first place, but now by picking them out like this, it will draw attention to them a little bit more. But I don't want to go mad so that they dominate the base, but it makes those areas.
Yeah,
it's another color tone again, isn't it? It's because of the slightly purpley, because we've got the blues in the boring grey base underneath. They're coming out more purpley, and that's very different again to the lava. So there you go. So I'm literally just dabbing this stuff on in no particular logical shape, but just picking out bits. It's quite watered down, so I can just keep adding smaller and smaller. Get that in focus. Smaller and smaller dots of this stuff.
Yeah.
So that you'll get these kind of zones if you look at those pictures of garnets. You get bits that are which are a bit brighter, and which will be the bits that will end up polishing nicely.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Wonderfully nerdy, says Simon.
Hey, yeah, that's it's all about. Well, I think it's one of them things where bases on things can often be a little bit, they are often an afterthought. I do like to, even if I'm doing some historical stuff, I like to go and see if I can find out a bit of a geology about the area, so I can get an idea of how the ground might weather. Yeah. We know about the classic ones of the red earth in Vietnam, but even that isn't all over Vietnam. It's only in certain areas of Vietnam. And understanding how a bit might look when you look at Normandy and you see where the British Paras landed, and if you look, the roads are very pale in colour, and I found a geological map, and they're kind of there are some areas of limestones and things, which would probably been crushed up to make gravel roads. So it's that kind of thing that I like and makes my nerdy brain tick. I actually found there was a guy on Twitter who is I think he's in the military. He's a Royal Engineer, and his thing is mapping, doing geological mapping for in and also in a modern combat sense, but also a historical sense, understanding the geology of areas and things. Although I never served, there was a guy who, part of my local modelling club when I was younger, Roy Porter, who wrote a great book on model buildings masterclass. I think he ended up in Berlin in 1945, I think he was, and he always told me I should join the Royal Engineers because of my geology background. Never did. Oh, sorry. So yeah, there you go. It's getting some. You can see how it's not super bright. I could probably pick out some bits and pieces to make it brighter. I mean, it could just be weird things as opposed to my story. They can be whatever you want them to be, really. But to me, they are little crystals and things that could be
dirty, unpolished crystals.
Yeah, exactly. They're
Oh, you have to do the toenails as well.
Yes, hopefully can get them done. Because that'll just, I mean, I can refine stuff a bit later, but how are we doing? Okay, loads of time. You can hardly see that glow I painted under there now.
Do you think you'll go back and put a bit more on the legs, glow on the legs or something?
I might do. I could do it. Yeah, it's one of those things when you do a little bit, you go, oh yeah, I quite like that. I'll do a little bit more and explore that one. Now, doing some of those and then just doing little brighter drips.
So on the glow on those slate looking rocks.
Yeah.
On under his right leg, you could have the glow just clipping in the edge. There.
Yeah.
Clipping the edge of the each slate piece, couldn't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And could be quite good as well because that'll be a more of an orange glow.
Yeah.
And these have got that purple, bluey undertones to them, so that it will be a different red. It's kind of one of those clever things, isn't it? Or amazing things about the colour spectrum, that you can have these reds, but they're quite different reds.
So how would you rate your performance in terms of figure painting. Have you enjoyed it? Are you proud of this? Is this going to be ending up on in another magazine somewhere?
Well, it'll be end up on YouTube, I think. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's one of those things. It's not a subject I would naturally pick out, but at the same time, it's been quite entertaining to see where it goes. I'm really like. I mean, getting a feel of him now when you look at him now, and we've got the base as a wonderful range of colours we've got in him in the end of the day. And I'm really chuffed with the way it's ended up. It's always exciting to try something new. It's trying something new and really not knowing where it's going to go, how it's going to end up, and then being pleasantly surprised how it does end up. Yeah, no, it's been challenging. It's been cool. Because it had, I mean, it's one of those things as well. In the long run, it gives you confidence as well, because you have an idea, you do it, and it works, but it pays off, and you're like, well, maybe I can do other things. Maybe I could try something different again.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the glow in there was done in double quick time because of being on here, and if you you could make that look a lot smoother and sharper and whatever with a little bit more hours spent, or not hours spent, but it shows what you can do in not much time as well, I think, sometimes. Yeah, that's it's quite cool. I'm quite pleased with the way it's gone. I can keep going. Yeah, I don't want to. I think for me as well, when I'm there's some little bits in here which actually, when I zoom in like that, or when I get that, they are coming out a little bit brighter, because all I'm doing is on particular bits is with the red paint. Just if I keep putting it on top of itself, it ends up getting brighter and brighter, but not super bright, but it does add variation in those bits. So yeah, you can use the layers as we've done in some parts, where on brushing on the figure himself to make the layers, to make the highlights, but here I'm using it to do a kind of almost illumination effect within these here meatballs. They do look slightly meatbally now, in reality. So I'm probably quite glad I didn't do brown at the end of the day, because they would look really meatbally. I could probably do just, if you imagine that these are, this is just my brain working again now. If you imagine these are these here garnet crystals, or crystals exposed at the surface, you could easily do some little tiny little flecks elsewhere to imply stuff that might just be under the surface. Do I like that? I'm not sure. Don't want to go too far with that. Right, let's see if I can quickly get those toenails done. Right. Can I remember what I did? We did off-white. Did I do beige? I think I did beige. So I'm going to do a quick bit. I've got some white in there, so Yeah. So I've got the beige. Just going to get it up there so you can see it. Because I'd washed my brush of the red, there is still water on my brush. So that's kind of making that. In fact, probably I should give that another quick clean again because there's probably a little bit of some red at the base of this ear brush, and that's going into the beige, which isn't terrible news in some respects, but so this is just going to be enough to get the beige on my brush. I'm going to give it an initial
Toenails.
little bit of coating on the toenails.
Are they going to be the same as the horns?
Roughly, yeah. I'm just going to kind of block them in more than anything at this point to a little bit more contrast, or just to get that pre-olive there.
So now you've got this narrative of the garnets and the land of the garnets. Would you have gone back and changed anything, or would you put any more rubies on it? Not rubies, sorry, garnets on him.
No, I think I'll just leave it as it is.
Okay.
Yeah, due to the lack of where I could actually put them. I did find a lovely piece of artwork actually of a Nycaloth. I found some more Nycaloth artwork where a Nycaloth had kind of sigils and marks in his skin, which were like this effect. So it was glowing through the skin.
Oh,
like
runes kind of thing.
Like lava runes underneath his skin. But
wow,
I'm not going to do that. But it was kind of cool effect. He was a giant. Oh, sorry, he was a giant one. He was fighting somebody who was on his shoulder, a humanoid kind of creature,
right?
Elfy type creature. So he was pretty big. But yeah, just the beige at this point in time. And again, that adds another little level of colour. I think with these, a couple of coats to get them. Oh, sorry, a couple of coats to get them brighter. But again, that grey or the black base coat underneath, and the fact they're not coming through super bright. Although, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because I've got the beige. You can clearly see the beige is quite beige on the palette here.
Yeah.
But when you look at it against the darkness of everything else, they look a lot brighter. The effects of colours around things and how that makes them appear. Because I don't want to go too bright on these. I probably won't go as bright as the horns because.
Well, again, everything would be like shadowed, don't you? You kind of fake the shadows lower down.
Plus, also, he's walking on all this dirty ground.
All this garnet.
Yeah. Actually, I should rename him Alf.
Yeah.
Alf Nycaloth Garnet.
Yeah, he's walking around this lava landscape with all ash and
Yeah,
what have you.
you could weather it a little bit, but weather it a little bit, but at the same time,
Hmm.
he is a mythical creature. He can have clean nails as well at the same time.
Yeah,
Or bright nails.
maybe he just looks after himself.
Magically clean themselves. There you go. They already look. Yeah, that looks cool itself.
Yeah,
Even before any kind of weathering effect. Now, I'm just going to point out here as well, at the same time, is that I haven't done them yet, and they're really awkward to get to. But there are some fingernails.
How are you gonna get there?
I don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to do that on camera, to be honest with you. Suddenly, I thought, oh no, that's going to be. It could go horribly wrong, and I'll cry live on air.
That's all right. You don't have to cry. Well, I guess I know that you like if you're going for a competition piece, you like to be something to be inspected from every angle. But for a D&D piece, you're going way above and beyond. For a gaming piece, I mean, it's in shadow, so would you see it? So.
Yeah. No, I may well just leave them be.
Well, we'll see in the next one when you do the turntable, won't we?
There you go. That's now what had I done? Oh yeah, so I'm going to just quickly go and get some. What did I use before? This. What's it called? It's that one, isn't it? Let's do sepia wash. Now we're going to do a couple of things here. I've got some sepia wash. I'm going to try and do some sepia wash solely around the bit where it joins his green skin. So.
Oh yeah, well, like you've done with all the other ones, right?
Yeah. So it's.
Do you take notes on what colours you've used for different parts?
I've recorded it. It's on video.
Yes, I understand you have for this one, but normally when you're not being videoed,
I do. I didn't used to. I've got better at it, and actually, it's a mix. The first thing I started doing before trying to take notes or being better at taking notes was, you can see here, I'm just painting it next to the. So I'm not going anywhere near the ends of the toes here, toenails. One thing I started doing was taking a photograph with my phone of the paints I'd used, and even the picture of the wet palette and paints behind it, kind of thing, so that I could look at it and go, and because I've been when I work on a project now, I have a numbered album called Nycaloth, and I make sure I put all the photographs, because you'll get stuff. Yeah, your phone usually has them just linearly against time ordered. So, coupled with notes, there is actually a notebook up here where I've actually noted some things down about what I was going to do tonight as well. I have tried to be more organised. Obviously, I had to be pretty darn organised for writing an article. But I do. What I want to do is, if somebody says, "How did you do that?" I want to be able to say, "Well, I did this and I did that," and be able to and say, "What colour did you use for the uniform?" But even you can see there, even just that little bit of sepia wash, undiluted, really close to the skin, has added quite a lot of character and tone to that already. Now, because these are kind of growing out, you can almost, what I'm going to try and do is some lines so that going into the foot as if it's when it's the growth of them. Because I can go back over it with some of the sepia again. How you can get, as it's grown out, this adds a bit of, might not even be perceptible. Now, just going to go back to this beige. Don't want too much paint on the brush. And just reinforce it at the ends again. So we can do some across the top. Almost as a highlight, but also to define, they've got that kind of claw shape.
Yeah.
And I've got some on the palette already. There's that white that's still there from doing the. Just going to add a bit of white into the beige to have a bit of a brighter tone. Some very final.
It's going to have amazing toenails.
Yeah. I'm going to say manicured, but it's more Nycaloth.
I know what you're trying to say.
Does that make sense?
Oh, well, yes.
Any of it makes sense? All right, so yeah, just putting that white. Just at the very top. Just do one last little charge back on sepia again. Because I think it went just a little bit too close to the top. And then I'm going to go and just down the bottom here. I've still got a little bit of the black from before. And then mix some of that with the sepia. Up slightly so you can see. So there's some black from when I was doing the start of the session, mixed with some sepia, so it's darker, runnier, browny black. Now I'm just going to carefully line the nail next to the green flesh tone just to break them out a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because the white had gone too close. Oh, and I'd lost some of that definition. Yeah, some are better than others, but it is nice to have that separation. And I think we'll call it a day.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, actually, okay. I will probably do some little refined bits and sharpen some bits up and do a little bit more glow up, as it were. But in order to really say this is kind of done, I'm just going to do. Um,
Oh yeah.
just so we can get a real feel for the overall piece. Make that.
Ah,
And there you go.
hey, that does look good.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, they really do with a little bit of glow on that axe. I
Yeah,
reckon.
yeah, I can maybe try and do that. And oh, and I was going to do this, wasn't I? Hang on, get a big brush because it works.
Just when you think you're finished.
Well, yeah, I did say I'll get some of that black and going to go and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very important
sharpen up
to
that.
tidy up your base, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's some overflow bits. I can do that better later on, but even so, for the purpose of this, whoa, I can drop my brush. I got a big lump of orange. That could go horribly wrong, couldn't it? In fact, that's too watery really to work properly. But yeah, yeah,
Lovely.
and do maybe a turntable kind of thing, which would be me going turn, 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 turn,
Yes, but you can set up nice light, a nice
yeah,
background,
yeah,
and then you could just do a voiceover over it.
yeah. So there you go.
About the different bits.
That's Nycaloth. Paint along with Rob Part 8. Finished.
Lovely. Well done, mate.
Yeah.